Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms. You spend a lot of time building up a real estate portfolio, but what happens when you're gone? Today we're going to talk about building a lasting real estate business for the long haul, and ultimately, how do you leave a legacy? And we've got an amazing guest today on the Real Estate Guys radio program. Our matey. A few spots remain for the Real Estate Guys 19th Annual Investors Summit. Imagine spending an entire week with like-minded investors, world-class educators, and real-world professionals. Returning this year are sales legend Tommy Hopkins, the editor of the Gold newsletter Brian London, international real estate developer Beth Clifford, and Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner Kyle Wilson. Plus, returning for his 9th Investors Summit, best-selling author and the Rich Dad advisor for real estate Ken McElroy. And joining us live and in person for his 8th Investor Summit, Robert Kiyosaki. It all begins June 11th in beautiful Belize. Visit realestateguysradio.com and click the tab that says Summit to reserve your spot. This transformational week is like no conference you've ever attended. Go to realestateguysradio.com and click Summit and make plans to spend a week with the Real Estate Guys, Ken McElroy, Robert Kiyosaki, and an all-star faculty on the 19th Annual Investors Summit. Welcome to the Real Estate Guys radio show. I'm your host, Robert Helms. With me, as usual, it's our co-host and financial strategist, Russell Gray.
Hey, Robert.
You know, you sound pretty good, Russ, but my voice is still a little bit hoarse from this amazing event we just did, The Secrets of Successful Syndication. A record number of people, biggest crowd ever, in spite of the nationwide pandemic and the lockdowns.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, there's probably a little bit of pent-up demand. You know, these people just could not wait to be together and to talk and share. So I just think that's human nature, especially the kind of gregarious characters that typically make up an investment community. Not everybody. Certainly there's some introverts out there, but that was a ton of fun. I think that obviously the world has changed quite a bit. You can hear the printing presses whirring constantly. You know, money is floating all over the place. Interest rates are still relatively low, although they've been climbing. And I think that, you know, for people who are living a corporate life and maybe looking down the road, or even businesses who found out, hey, I can be shut down indiscriminately. Maybe I'm in the wrong business because I need to be someplace that's a little bit less likely to have something like that happen. And of course, syndication is a great business opportunity for real estate investors. So for whatever the reasons, it was a fantastic event, great energy, great people, lots of positive feedback on the post assessments and in social. Can't wait to do it again in September.
Thanks to everybody who came out. More than half the people were people we'd never seen at a live event before. So that was super cool. And some of our old friends as well. In fact, we've already got more than 40 people signed up for the next one. And it is in September. You can get all the details on our website at realestateguysradio.com. You know, last week on the show, we were talking about organizing your financing and thinking long term and looking at the leverage on your property as an asset, not as just something that you set and forget. And today, we're going to stretch that topic out a bit in this way. We build our real estate portfolios over time, and it takes time. You know, to build a really solid, performing, stabilized portfolio, you got to be in the right markets. You got to find the right teams. Those things don't always happen the first time out. So it takes some repositioning, some change, and so forth. But I'll tell you, we see some folks who unfortunately get to the end of their economic life and ultimately to the end of their life. They've built up a beautiful portfolio. They leave it to their heirs, who either just destroy it or just sell it all for pennies on the dollar. And there's more to it than that. So I think today we're going to talk about this idea of leaving a legacy, doing more with your real estate than just building income and equity for yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about lying on your deathbed and reflecting back on what your life has really been all about, and of course, what I've gone through in the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time reflecting back on my life. And you beat yourself up a little bit, I can tell you, at least I do. And what I've learned is that life, like real estate investing and business, is an iterative process. So you push forward, you do your best, you make a mistake, you learn, and then you circle back and you plan do review, if you will, and you take another shot at it and you learn a little bit more. And it's kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And obviously you can learn a lot quicker when you are around the right people, when you have mentors, when you are more studious, when you try to accept the failure and not take it personally, but just learn from it. Something Tom Hopkins taught me years and years and years ago at the very beginning of my career. Failure isn't failure or permanent or personal. It's just something that happened. It's feedback. And you start applying these principles to your life and you say, okay, I'm kind of getting my life figured out. And then you learn how to be successful. But as we know, there's a lot more to it than that. And part of it is what you leave behind. So in between all of that, there's a lot of work to be done.
Now, this is not a show on estate planning, although that is certainly a critical function and the thing people put off for too long. No one wants to think about it. But I think you're going to find some real optimism in this show because we're talking about designing your business so that as you're building it, it does more than just provide the economic return. There's a lot of areas of our life, and we've got a great guest today who I think will really open our eyes and ears about this. But, I think maybe to set the table, many real estate investors and professionals, frankly, are very transactional in nature. They advertise and they do business and they have a transaction and they go on to the next one. And for a long time, we've talked about all the benefits of thinking in terms of relationship, not of transaction. We like to say that rather than be a hunter, it's better to be a farmer.
Yes, and that's because you are building goodwill in your business, and goodwill is something that extends past the value of your offering. It's how people feel about you and what you do and their willingness to spend their money or put in their best efforts to help you. And when you have people who are on your side, as your late father used to say all the time, it's easier to get what you need with honey than it is with vinegar. There's an old scripture too, Robert, that talks about a good man leaving an inheritance for his children's children. And I've thought about that a lot as I get towards the season of life. And what I've realized now that I'm a grandfather is that it's really a lot less about the money that you leave behind, but it's how well did you train their parents, and so I've really thought about that. And again, my kids are great. I'm super proud of them and they're unique and they're figuring their lives out as we all do, and they have their ups and downs, and we have our ups and downs in our relationship like most families do. But my kids are out there hustling, they're figuring their lives out, and I think that the example that they're setting for their children, those that have children, is, I hope, the example that I set, which is that you're not perfect, but you never give up. You keep pushing, you keep working, and it's that resilience that I think that the human race needs to have more of, instead of people rolling over and showing their belly or giving away their power when the going gets tough, is really rising up and taking control of what they can control so they can deal better with the things that they can't control. And how do you learn to do that? How you learn to think that way? It's the same thing we tell our syndicators. You have to be in an environment where you're around people that are like that. That's why I love the tribe we have, the entrepreneurial spirit that people bring, especially all the young folks that come in and just how driven they are. It gets me excited as an older guy now to see these young bucks. And I don't know what's does. I don't know what the right word would be to be, not sexist, but to see these young chargers come up and just really want to make something of their life. And they want to get around good ideas and smart people. And they're trying to figure it out. It gives me a lot of hope for the future. I know a lot of times people get a little down on the next generation. I think that's something that happens every generation. I remember being the group that people were looking down on, but generation after generation, you figure it out. And I think that's because of people that went before you had their battles to fight and they figure it out, and you learn by watching them.
Most people don't end their life financially independent. And if you look at the ones that do, there's an excellent chance that they had mentors and role models. And the reason I think many people don't end up with financial literacy is because they were born in a family that didn't have financial literacy. And that's no slight to the parents, but that's just how it is. We learn things like money and investing from our folks. And if you didn't get that, well, the good news is there's lots of role models out there. You and I, Russ, both had the great opportunity to learn a lot when it comes to business from our fathers. Our guest today did much the same. His father was absolutely amazing. Zig Ziglar passed away at the age of 86, and he added so much life and optimism and faith and motivation and inspiration of the world. When we come back, you'll meet his amazing son, Tom Ziglar, today on the Real Estate Guys radio program.
Live nationwide, you're listening to the Real Estate Guys. Find out more at realestateguysradio.com.
Hey, it's Robert Helms. Thanks so much for listening to the show today. I want to personally invite you to come see an amazing real estate market that combines excellent cash flow, offshore diversification, and what we affectionately call lifestyle investing. Come join me from April 16th to 19th in the beautiful country of Belize. The Real Estate Guys have been bringing investors to Belize for more than 15 years now. And with the Belize airport open again, our discovery trip is designed to show you the market like nobody else can. Sure, Belize is breathtakingly beautiful, the people are wonderful, and wait till you taste the food. But the real opportunity is the real estate investment potential. Demand for offshore real estate has skyrocketed since the coronavirus shutdown, and with retirees looking for lifestyle, the work-from-home workforce able to be productive from afar, and tourism coming back strong, now may be the perfect time to consider Belize as a place to diversify risk in your investment portfolio. There's all types of opportunity in Belize when it comes to real estate investing, including both long and short-term rentals, commercial and retail triple net properties, business opportunities, land acquisition, development, agriculture, and more. And as the only country in Latin America with English as its official language, it's easy to understand the law. Property rights are strong, and contracts are in English. And in Ambergris Caye, a unique situation exists where demand for rentals continues to outstrip supply, creating a compelling environment for investors. So come see for yourself. Join me April 16th through 19th in Ambergris Caye, Belize, as we study the market, learn about the sustainable drivers, and tour lots of beautiful real estate. And like all of our field trips, there are no properties for sale during the weekend. Rather, you'll meet lots of local providers that will help educate you about the market so that you can follow up with them after the trip if the market seems interesting to you. You've heard about Belize on the Real Estate Guys for all these years. Now come see what all the excitement is about. Plus, we'll have lots of time over meals and activities to talk about all things real estate. To get the details, go to the website at realestateguysradio.com and click on Events, where you'll find the Belize Discovery Trips. Once you register, you'll get information about our group hotel rates as well as travel details. So join me in Belize, April 16th through 19th. It's a beautiful country with lots of amazing possibilities, and the only thing missing is you. Go to realestateguysradio.com under Events, and I look forward to seeing you in beautiful Belize.
Hello, this is Robert Kiyosaki. I'm the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you're serious about learning how to invest in real estate, listen to the Real Estate Guys. They really know what they're talking about.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program, heard every weekend on this great radio station and all the time at realestateguysradio.com. We're talking today about more than just building a profitable real estate business, but in fact, building a legacy, thinking about how it looks when it's built and what happens when you're gone. To help us with some of those ideas, we are thrilled to welcome to the Real Estate Guys the author of Choose to Win, Tom Ziglar. Hey, Tom.
Hey, how are you doing? Thanks so much for having me here.
Well, we're overdue. We're so overdue for having you on the program. Our mutual friend Kyle Wilson has been talking to each of us for a long time, and our mutual friend John finally put us together, and here we are. You know, I think so many people are struggling with the difference between making a living, making a difference, building a life. And I'll tell you what, in your book, Choose to Win, you really talk about this, and it's awesome. In fact, you talk about the difference between success, significance, and legacy. Can you speak to that, Tom?
Yeah, you know, success is something that we all want, right? We want to be more successful. And it's about the stuff that we have. You know, it's about our accomplishments, the things that we get to check the box on. And a lot of times we just buy into the cultural definition of success, you know, which is usually around finances. Significance goes, and I'm not against success. By the way, I much prefer it than being unsuccessful. So, so there's no rain on that parade. But I think we need to be careful because we can elevate one portion, one piece of that puzzle, and then forget the other pieces, which is family relationships and legacy and our physical health. You know, success is a package of all of those things. So we teach balanced success. Then we go one step further with significance. And significance is when you help someone else be, do, or have more than they thought possible. So success is what I achieve, what I attain, the goals that I accomplish, the life that I enjoy. Significance is helping someone else do that. Legacy is a whole nother tier. I love this quote by Mark Batterson. He said that an inheritance is what you leave to someone. A legacy is what you leave in someone.
Love that.
And that's just strong. So if you are looking to become successful and you make money in real estate, man, that's fantastic. That's success. And then if you help someone else do the same thing, well, that's significant. You've helped them be, do, or more than they thought possible. But then if who you help turned around and they take what you taught them and then they teach someone else, that's legacy. And so we can do that in our work. We can do that in our family. We can do that in all areas of our life.
You know, one of my favorite quotes of your dad's was, you can have everything you want in life if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. And that really epitomizes exactly what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. You know, when I think about all the things that Dad said and that philosophy that he lived his life by, to me, it's about solving problems. One of my mentors said this. He said, you know, when you solve a problem, you're often rewarded with a certificate of appreciation. We call that money.
Right.
Right. Rabbi Daniel Lapin said that. And then he said, the more problems you solve, the more certificates you get. And then he said this. He said, the creator of the universe is never happier than when his children are solving problems for his other children. And that is another way of saying what Dad said. You can have everything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. And I think when we get focused on solving the problems that we see for the people that we're surrounded with, that's when life gets fun.
You know, in so many ways, Tom, that is the essence of what a real estate investor does. The problem is people can't save up the money to buy a home. They need somewhere to live. Well, enter the landlord. And as long as you provide safe, clean, affordable housing for somebody else, then you'll be paid well. Or the type of investor that sees a rundown, dilapidated house and decides to put in the money and effort and time to fix it up and make it beautiful. That's great for the neighborhood. It's great for whoever's going to live in that house. But it also comes with profit if it's done right. So this is a great concept. So many people in their early stages especially, you know, they put their own oxygen mask on first. They've got to make some money. But eventually we get paid in direct proportion to the number of people we serve.
100% agree. And one of the things that's so cool about real estate investing is you can really be focused on taking care of your property, your tenants. And by default, when you do that, when you go to serve those around you, it raises the value of the property around you. Everyone in the neighborhood associated around that area benefits from that. And then if you take it one step further, it becomes a launching pad in so many different directions when you start anchoring relationships and taking care of your staff in the right way. And if you have family or friends who are in the business too, when you start sharing with them how you did it and how you grew it, it's just the way, I believe it's the way it was meant to be. It's the way God created it. I believe to be.
Now, Tom, you talk about balanced success, and in Choose to Win, you actually go through several areas. And sometimes people hear success and they think it only means money. But there's a lot more areas of success. And let's talk about some of the ways that you can gauge how successful you are in all of your life.
Yeah, well, we talk about the 7 areas of life, and Dad created this probably 5 decades ago. The 7 areas are the mental. Look at a wheel, okay? And the wheel has 7 spokes. So one spoke of the wheel could be the mental, and this is our mindset. This is our belief. This is how we see the world. This is how we think. Then our spiritual, this is our character and our integrity, our core values, our faith. The physical, which is our health. It's how well we sleep. You know, it's how well our heart runs, and do we have energy to play with the grandkids someday? And then the 4th spoke is the family, and these are the relationships with those who are closest to us. And then the financial, this is our stewardship. This is the resources that we have, the money that we have. And then the 6th spoke is our personal. And these are like our hobbies and the things that give us energy. And finally, the last one, we call it our career, but I really like to call it our economic engine. It's what do we do to provide the fuel, the economic resources to fulfill our purpose and to do things in life that we want. So it could be a job, could be as an investor, you could be a teacher, it doesn't really matter. But you need to be successful in all 7 of those areas. I mean, look at it this way. If you had if you had six of them except for your health, would you really consider yourself successful? Or
Right.
if you had six of them but no family relationships, how good would life be? And so we need to have all seven in order to live out that balanced life. And here's something that's interesting that's really come out in this last year in this pandemic. And that is that the number one issue with large companies today is the health and well-being of their employees. Now, this is a big HR initiative. This is what key executives in the Fortune 500 are talking about. And they're realizing that the people that work in their business, they're anxious, they're worried, they're overwhelmed, they're unsure, they're disrupted because of the way their work has changed. But it makes me remember a quote that Dad said back in the 70s. And he said this: if standard of living is your goal, your quality of life will almost never go up. But if quality of life is your goal, your standard of living almost always goes up. And it's interesting that 5 decades later, the academic elite who are running, the corporate giants have finally figured out that quality of life depends on quality of work, and quality of work depends on quality of life. So they go hand in hand. And so when we talk about balanced success, it's not only a kind of a dream goal to achieve, but it's also really smart, because if you don't have that, your financial success, which is the benchmark that most people go by, isn't going to be what it could be.
Well, I like two things about it. I like the fact that you call it an economic engine. That's just a way of thinking about it instead of the job I have to get up and go to. And I also like that it comes last, right? Not first. Like, there's so many parts of life, and each, I think, plays on the other, because the healthier you are in all 7 areas, the better off you are in all 7 areas, right? Any one area, as you've mentioned, will drag you down. So it's the perfect thing to be thinking about as we talk about this, our whole life, which isn't just our economic engine, but everything else. But the economic engine's important. You have to make sure that you've considered that. And, I think when people think about leaving a legacy, that's what they think about, to your great quote about inheritance. But there's so much more than that. And to this day, every single moment of every single day, your dad's voice and words from his books are reaching people. There's a Zig Ziglar book being read at every minute of every day. Talk about reaching a long-lasting legacy. So let's talk about legacy. How do we design our lives in such a way that we can leave a legacy?
Just talking about Dad's impact, we estimate that he impacted over 250 million people.
Yeah.
And that is just an amazing thing. And so when I think about legacy, I think about the rippling through eternity. So if you're at home and you're looking at your family, you're looking at generations to come, you're trying to build something that's meaningful and sustainable. I just love that word, ripple through eternity.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just powerful. And so the first question I would ask you is, what do you want to be known for? When people talk behind your back about you, what is it that they say? What are the words that they use? And if you could imagine what that conversation, if you could have any conversation, what would you want it to look like? Do you want to say that you had character or love or generosity, or you were a teacher, or what is it that you want to say? And I'll remember, gosh, this is at least 15 years ago. It was back when oil was booming and over like $150 a barrel or something like that. It was crazy times. And my friend was in that industry in oil and gas, and he had a client who owned 20 oil wells. And he said, "Tom, I've got a dilemma. My client doesn't know what to do. And here he's got 20 producing wells that he owns 100% in." And I go, "That sounds like a good problem to have. What's his problem?" And he said, "Well, he's trying to figure out how to leave those wells to his 2 kids in a way that they want snorted up their nose."
Yep.
And if you want to think about what legacy is and what it isn't, that is what it isn't, right?
Right.
And so that's what we want. We want to build something that we can enjoy while we're here, that we get the fruits of to share with those we love. And then we want to leave that behind as a legacy that is a vehicle that helps those we love fulfill their purpose and reach, one of the common phrases is to become the best person, the best version of themselves. That's what we want to have happen with it. And when we talked about balanced success, there was a real sequence in there. You said you kind of liked it that we left career at the end.
Right.
Well, every single one of those was in an order on purpose. The mental, which is the way we think, comes first. If our thinking's not right, everything else is going to suffer. It's just not going to happen. And then second's our character and our faith. And people say, well, why did you put thinking before, the spiritual spoke of the wheel? And I said, well, we've got to think that we want that first. And so I cheat. So I put mental first and then spiritual second. But the first thing that we input into our mind is spiritual content, which is about character and integrity and love and faith and, the things that mean. And then the third thing is physical. So a lot of times we focus on the physical first because we get fast results, but people join the gym on January 1st and they quit by February and they've gotten results, but they didn't have staying power. Why didn't they have staying power? Because their thinking, their mental approach, and their character wasn't built yet. And then fourth is family. And when you ask most people what drives you, what motivates you, why is it that you do what you do, they will say their family. So they'll put their family first. Some people might put their faith first. But it's interesting that we put it fourth in the sequence. And the reason is the way we lead our family is through influence and example. That's it. And unless we're mentally right, spiritually strong, and physically fit, we're not going to have and be the right example, which means our influence isn't going to be what it could be. So now we've got our family and our mindset and everything right. Our health is good. Our spiritual is good. And then we go into the finances, the personal, and the career. And boy, what a foundation it is. That's why when you see people get it out of order, they hit the jackpot, they win the lottery, they become an athlete, and they get a lot of money, then they lose it all. It's because they didn't have the foundation.
That is awesome stuff. We're talking with Tom Ziglar. When we come back, you're going to get a chance to win a brand new book that Tom wrote the foreword to, and we're going to talk about Tom's new book coming out near the end of the year. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Real estate investment advice right in your mailbox. Sign up for the free Real Estate Guys newsletter at realestateguysradio.com.
In uncertain times like this, it's great to know there are two things you can always count on: high demand for affordable single-family homes to live in, and Terry Kerr's amazing Memphis team at Mid-South Home Buyers to find, fix, and manage the next addition to your recession-resistant real estate portfolio. The Memphis market is logistics and distribution dynamo with an economic engine that's essential to moving goods and critical supplies all over the United States. Quality rehab, proven profitable property management, affordable rents, and solid ROI make turnkey property investing through Terry's team a dream when it matters most. To learn more about Memphis and Mid-South Home Buyers, send an email to midsouth@realestateguysradio.com. That's midsouth@realestateguysradio.com.
Stop for a moment. Why are you listening to this show? Are you dreaming of a bigger, brighter financial future? More personal freedom to live life on your own terms? What if there was just one skill that could make it happen? There is. Sales. Robert Kiyosaki says every entrepreneur must be good at sales. It's true for investors too. Sales is how you attract money, people, and opportunities. Sales is the skill used to negotiate deals and lead your team. Sales skills are essential to success. The good news is, it's a learnable skill. The great news is, we've created a 2-day interactive workshop to teach those skills to you. Make plans today to attend How to Win Funds and Influence People, Mastering the Art of Financial Selling. For dates and details, send an email to sales@realestateguysradio.com or visit realestateguysradio.com and look under events. Gain the skills you need to succeed. Email sales@realestateguysradio.com or look under the events tab at realestateguysradio.com.
Hi, this is Dennis Waitley, and you're listening to The Real Estate Guys.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio program. Thanks for tuning into the show. Hey, if you've ever wanted to be able to make sales or have influence or be persuasive, then you need to get to How to Win Funds and Influence People. It's our 2-day workshop on sales and really consultative selling. It's an awesome event. I can say that because Russ teaches the whole thing, and he only does it once a year. And we missed it last year, so make sure that you get all the details on that. How to win funds and influence people. You can find them at our website at realestateguysradio.com. Speaking of influence, we're talking with the amazing Tom Ziglar. Before we get back to that conversation, it's time to play Real Estate Trivia, your chance to win a prize by knowing today's Real Estate Trivia question. Just a minute, I'm going to ask you a question that has something to do with both our topic and real estate, as you'll see. When you hear the question and think you know the answer, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. You'll need to include your name, the answer, and your mailing address, because if you're the winner, you're going to get a brand new book. In fact, the ink is still wet. It's just coming out this week. It's called Bringing Value, Solving Problems, and Leaving a Legacy, put together by our good friend Kyle Wilson. Tom Ziglar wrote the foreword to that book, and you could be among the first to get a copy if you know today's real estate trivia question. But first, last week on the show, we were talking about managing your debt, and we asked this: where in the United States was the shortest fishing season on record? Well, believe it or not, the 2019 fishing season for sturgeon on one Michigan lake lasted 78 minutes. They got all the fish they could in 78 minutes, and that was it. Nearly 500 fishermen and less than a dozen fish. Here's our real estate trivia question for this week. Where in the world was Zig Ziglar born? He used to talk about it a little bit. I know Tom knows, but do you know, where was Zig Ziglar born? Now, it's not where he grew up and tells the stories of being from, but he was born somewhere, I guess, as we all were. Where was that? Where was Zig Ziglar born? If you think you know or just want to guess, send your best guess to trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Trivia@realestateguysradio.com. Give us your name, the answer to the question, and your mailing address. You'll get this brand new book, Bringing Value, Solving Problems, and Leaving a Legacy. That's today's real estate trivia question. We're with Tom Ziglar, who wrote the foreword to that great book. And Tom, it's just a pleasure to talk to you. I just love digging into some of these subjects. You mentioned before about the pandemic and the changes, and that's not something just to be taken lightly. In fact, I know you've been thinking and watching and observing this, in fact, so much so that the book you have coming out later this year kind of touches on those themes. Tell us about your new book. Give us a little preview.
Yeah, so the book is 10 Leadership Virtues for Disruptive Times. And I dig into, okay, disruption is everywhere. And the pandemic, basically, millions of people went home and everything was disrupted. And every day we can read about it. We can see the impact in business, and people are moving to remote places. They're working remotely. There's hybrid workforces coming. It's totally flipped upside down. Real estate, if you're in commercial, you know what I'm talking about. If you have premium destination places by the mountains and the beach, you know what I'm talking about. If you fled the inner city to get a little bit more space or a little bit less cost for square foot, you know what I'm talking about. But one of the things that I've really honed in on is this idea. They're creating a new industry right now. In the industry, they're calling it the transformation industry. And the reason they're calling it this is that the change that we've seen is nothing compared to the change that's going to happen over the next 10 years.
Right.
The technology that we're about to be a part of is going to totally revolutionize the way everything's done. I mean, right now, you and I are recording this on a Zoom call. In 5 years, we'll probably have some sort of glasses on. We'll be in a virtual room having a cup of coffee, and our brains will think, because the technology is so good, that we're actually knee to knee at a coffee shop. 1,000 people will be able to come to an event, putting their glasses on, and their brains will think that they're next to everybody, because that's what supercomputing, 5G, which will turn into 6G, communication, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, all these things are coming into play. And so what does that mean as regards to disruption? Those who have the right mindset, and it's really the growth mindset that embraces the change, are the ones who are going to win. Because every time there's a change, there's a whole new level of problems that come in. But guess what? We're people. And the way we solve problems with people is with relationships built on character and integrity. And so there's never going to be enough of that. And so transformation simply means this. Number one, we've got to have the right mindset in adapting to and adopting and embracing the change. And number two, we're going to have to be getting used to being the constant learner. I mean, the more we learn, the more we say, hey, I want to know more, the better we're going to do. And so when you add that with legacy, what's a legacy that my dad left me? He identified himself as a constant student. He was studying 2 to 3 hours a day for 40 years. And that allowed him to stay ahead and to serve others better than anybody else in his category. And that's what we all do, no matter what business we're in or what our passion is. If we say, hey, I'm going to be open to the changes, to the disruption, I'm going to be solid and strong in my relationships, and I'm going to be eagerly learning the new things that are coming, then we're prepared.
Tom, I think this is such a good point, because disruption kind of puts people at dis-ease. It's change. It's uncomfortable. They fight it. And yet when most people are talking about the technology changes that you bring up, and lots more that are on the way, they focus on the technology. But I'm anxious to read the book, because focusing on the leadership necessary to manage through that technology, that's the part nobody's talking about.
Yeah, and that's really the focus of the book. So the 10 virtues are, I've created a term. I don't know if I borrowed it or I read it somewhere, or I'm not claiming I invented it, but I call it a coach leader. And this is a completely different way of leading. And I'm going to just do a comparison. The old style, top down, authoritative, do it because I said so, positional leader, their influence has been going down every year for the last 10 or 15 years. Young people don't like it. Nobody really likes it. But now when we lead over a camera or we lead a remote group of people, it doesn't work at all. Nobody likes to be told what to do. Everybody likes to be asked what to do. So what does a coach leader do? A coach leader collaborates and co-creates. They do some delegation, which is what an old style leader does, but it's more around asking the questions, being a part of the process. And the biggest element, I believe, is understanding the reason, the purpose, and the why of each person on their team. Why are you here? What's the big cause you want to, that you want to accomplish or fulfill? What is your purpose? And when a leader knows the individual purposes of their people and are able to elevate the cause and the purpose of the business and connect those two, which I call alignment, that's when amazing and powerful things happen. The catchphrase there is work for a dream, not a paycheck. So if the people on my team are helping me achieve, my dream, and when they do that, they achieve their own at the same time, that's a powerful connection. I read a study last week, 46% of employees are seriously considering changing where they work this year.
Wow.
And so if you're a leader and you have people on your payroll, just know that about half of them are thinking about leaving.
Yeah.
And so ask yourself, well, why would they leave? And the big reason is relationship and alignment. A coach asks the questions to understand what it is that one person on their team wants to accomplish. They share the vision and goal of the business, and they basically say what Lou Holtz said. I love this Lou Holtz story. He just won the national championship in football. And a reporter said, "Congratulations, Coach Holtz. but you lost your offensive coordinator and your defensive coordinator to the competition. It's going to be awful hard to repeat as national champions, isn't it? And Holt said, nope, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And the reporter's jaw dropped. What do you mean? You lost. It's like in business. If we had a record profits and we lost our VP of sales and our VP of operations at the same time.
Right.
And Coach Holt said, oh, no, this is the greatest thing that happened to me. Why? Because every assistant coach in the country, every coach of a small university in the country knows that when you work on my staff, this is where people become champions and dreams are fulfilled. He says, because when somebody comes to work for me, I make a deal with them. I say, look, you help me win the national championship and I will get you the head coaching job of your dreams. And that's a simple way to look at it. And so now with the hybrid workforce, the remote workforce, top performers can work for anybody anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter where they live. So who are they going to work for and with? People who help them reach their dreams. But it's a relationship. So if I come to work for you and we have a deal, I help you hit your dream, you're going to coach me and help me get mine too. Why would we ever break that up as long as we're making progress?
That is abundant thinking. Hey, Tom, before we get you out of here, speaking of coaching, one of the things that your company, Ziglar, does, and people don't even maybe realize this, is you support coaches and trainers and speakers. Can you talk about that side of your dad's legacy, if you will?
Yeah, so our company is a legacy company. Obviously, Dad started it, and now I'm running it. And our goal is real simple, and that is to change the world. I mean, we want to change lives, and we believe you do that one person at a time. And then that person impacts their family and the people they work with and their community, and from there. And so we realized that the best way for us to do this was to equip, and is to equip, coaches and speakers and trainers with our content, our know-how, our information, so that they can go out into their own communities and share that. So because of that, we've had hundreds of coaches who come in and we train them in our coaching system. We give them our coaching program, and then they go out and they might develop people in their own company using that material, or they might build a coaching and training business on their own. It's up to them as to how they do that. We have speakers and trainers who come in for the same reason. And so we've got people all over the world, over like 25 countries now, and speaking and training and coaching. And it's really the way we get the word out and the message, because after all, we talked about legacy early on. Legacy is equipping you to make a difference in the life of someone else so that that person can turn around and do the same thing. So that's what we're equipping our coaches to do, to use this legendary, time-tested and proven content and material processes to build a profitable and successful coaching and training business that will in turn change lives wherever they go.
Hey, Tom, if folks are interested in learning more, I suppose they can go to Ziglar.com.
Ziglar.com, but you know what? I love talking to people. So my email is tom@ziglar.com. So it's a hard one, I know. I'll respond to the email. Just let me know you heard it here.
Well, that's awesome stuff. Hey, Tom, we sure appreciate your time today, and should let the listeners know we're going to have you back for our Father's Day special this year. We're going to interview a whole bunch of folks whose dad left them some great legacy, and we'd love to have you back to talk a little more about your dad.
Absolutely. Would love to be back. And, we talked about Kyle Wilson just a minute ago, and he's come out with a great new book. So I encourage everybody to check that book out as well. It's got tons of stories in it about legacy and success and leadership. So it's a powerful book.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And it's coming out this week if you're listening live on the radio, or if the podcast is just released. The book's called Bringing Value, Solving Problems, and Leaving a Legacy. Collection of great stories. Bob Berg has a story in there. Dennis Waitley's in there. I have a story in there. And Tom, you wrote the foreword. So we're hoping everyone gets a copy of that and can be inspired. Hey, if you want to grab your copy of Bringing Value, Solving Problems, and Leaving a Legacy, all you have to do is go to bringingvaluebook.com. That's bringingvaluebook.com. Tom Ziglar, it's been an incredible discussion. Thanks so much for your time, your energy, and for doing what you do.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's Tom Ziglar. We're talking about not just building a business, but leaving a legacy. More when we come back. You're tuned to the Real Estate Guys radio program. I'm your host, Robert Helms.
Need help with your real estate investment portfolio? Check out the resources page at realestateguysradio.com.
Real Estate Guys listeners, are you tired of losing real estate deals due to financing issues? Have you had enough of waiting on banks, lenders, and investor groups to fund new projects? What if there were a way to eliminate all the hassle and invest in real estate on your own terms? I'm here to tell you there is. Patrick Donahoe here from Paradigm Life. I'm an Investopedia Top 100 Most Influential Financial Advisor, and I recently wrote a best-selling book about the financial strategy that changed my entire investment model, and the one that could change yours. To get a copy of my book for free and learn how you can maximize your real estate portfolio by acting as your own bank, send an email to mybank@realestateguysradio.com. Don't make another real estate deal without reading my book first. Email mybank@realestateguysradio.com now to get your copy for free.
Hey, ever wished you could go back in time and do some tax planning? Now you can, just like Marty McFly. Lucky for you, a brand new federal law just made this possible with an EQRP to get tax deductions and reduce your taxable income from last year, so you can use that tax savings to invest in real estate, Bitcoin, gold, even your own business. Whether you're a full-time investor, doctor, government employee, even if you have 5 or 50 employees, the EQRP works and is your secret weapon, and now it's retroactive. Hey, I'm Damian Lupo, and we have your solution. By the way, if you got bad advice and used an IRA for an apartment syndication, you are sitting on a UBIT time bomb. But don't worry, there's a solution, the EQRP. EQRP company is ready to help you get control of your money, kill UBIT, and help you pay way less taxes. Want to learn more about this strategy? Send an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com for my special EQRP report. Paying tax or letting Wall Street suck you dry is dumb. Your first step is freeing your retirement money by sending an email to eqrp@realestateguysradio.com today.
Hi, I'm Steve Forbes. You're listening to The Real Estate Guys. Listen up.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Guys radio show. We're so glad you're here. We'll be even more glad when we see you at the 2021 Investor Summit. It's happening in the beautiful country of Belize. We're calling it the Summit on Sand. It's now 80% filled, but we've got room for you. Get all the details on our website at realestateguysradio.com. Just look for the button that says Summit. Well, I don't know about you, but I thought a chance to hear from Tom Ziglar was awesome.
No, I think it's great. I have several notes, as I often do when you do these interviews, and I get to be a fly on the wall. But one of the things that really stood out to me was his very clear distinction between success, significance, and legacy. And the definition of significance I thought was great. When you help someone else be, do, or have more than they thought was possible. Of course, I think I'd like to humbly say that we have a degree of significance in our business because so many people come back from syndication and like, oh my gosh, this has completely changed my life. And that's fantastic. And then you look at the legacy, and that's the part that is really, really interesting. Developing people of significance. In other words, it's the ultimate pay it forward. You've been given this gift of life, and you can come in and be successful and just get all you want and have a good time and enjoy yourself, and then you leave, and that's the end of the story. But if you've helped other people, then you've made the world better for the moment that you've been in it and as long as they live in it. But when you train up people or influence people to become significant where they're training up people and they're being significant, and then that goes one more, now it's like a virus on a positive way, right? It spreads, and then that contribution where people are working together in mutual support just goes on and on and on. What a better world it is when people are striving for more than success, but significance.
In his book, Choose to Win, Tom talks about your why. So critically important. What's your why? But he follows that up with something just as important. That's what's your plan. So as we talk about real estate portfolios and building them up over time, I think what you want to be able to do is leave assets plus a plan. Don't just leave assets in the hands of someone who might not know what to do or might not understand your vision. And sometimes we have the great opportunity of having children, nieces and nephews, other family members, good friends, even charities that want to kind of step in and take over our portfolios or parts thereof. And you have to help them do that. You can't assume that they're going to have the basis of understanding that you did when you got into these properties. And Russ, I know you're a planner. Maybe you got some ideas about this, how you can make sure that your heirs, whoever they are left equipped to handle whatever you may leave them.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I've learned being a parent is that you have to let the kids experiment. You have to let the kids get real world experience. They're going to get scuffed up. They're going to make mistakes. If your mission in life as a parent is to prevent your children from having any pain, and when I first started out as a parent, that was my goal. And pretty soon I began to realize that I was actually stunting their growth because they weren't getting the lessons. All the lessons are in the failure.
Well, let's talk about this for a minute because I see exactly where you're going. But here's the thing. You don't just say, here's the Maserati and the keys. Experiment. Try it out. You have to have some basis of a plan. You know, we've built up 700 units over 6 states. I need to introduce you to the ideas of property management, show you the reports we get, go visit some of my properties. I think you have to balance that with letting them bump their heads a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know that both of my daughters, my older daughters, came to work with us early on, and they were very, very young. And the way, especially the younger daughter, the way we trained her is I had my little office there in the corner and I put her cubicles right outside my door. And I would let her handle phone calls and make decisions and I would be listening. So it's like when you let your kid go on the bicycle and you know they're on their own, but you're running right alongside and you're ready to grab them so that, you know, they can wobble. They might even have a little tumble, but nothing bad. They're not going to go out in the street and get hit by a car because you're there, you're on top of it. And I think, you know, investing is that way. I mean, a lot of people, we've been trained to think in the school system that learning is about sitting in a room and having information force fed into our brain. And I really believe the mentorship model works so much better. You learn by doing, reacting to real world situations. And so if you can invest alongside with your children and let them see the decisions, the ups and downs. Dave Zook tells a story. When he was a young man, he would watch his father, who was a real estate investor, and he would see his father real estate investing. And he's like, I never want to be a real estate investor. But later on, he had a tax problem. And then he realized that real estate was the solution. And then he began to appreciate more what his dad was doing. But even though he wasn't hands-on involved in it, he was able to learn through observation. Now, the part where Dave really had a lot of great experience was he was running businesses that his father had started and was involved in. And Dave grew up to be a businessman in that way. So my point of that is when you look at how do you train your children, I'm not a fan of like send them off to boarding school, get them an MBA, get them this, you know, big PhD or whatever, and then stick them out in the real world where they have zero chops and think that this academic education is going to carry the day. I think you put them in environments where they're going to be around other people. And here's the hardest part I learned as a parent. Sometimes, in fact, maybe more times than you'd care to admit, especially later on as the kids get older, you're not the right answer. I've had to let other people mentor my kids and set my ego aside and realize I'm not the right man for this job. Right? Somebody else is going to be able to teach my child about this aspect of investing or this aspect of life or something about a relationship because I haven't figured it out myself yet, or I'm not in a position. I can't influence them. He talked about, you know, influence and example. And of course, in the sales training, I talk a lot about influence being about positioning. And sometimes as a parent, you get out of position. And you got to bring other people in. So your tribe is really an important part of developing the next generation. It's not just you, but it's the tribe that you have your kids become a part of.
Well, and to your credit, Russ, you have included all of your children in the various things we do with our tribe over the years, like coming to the summit and the sales training and the goals and all those things. And same for my kids who are younger, but they're wide-eyed and they're starting to get those ideas. And you up the level of people you hang around and you think that way. And you can't control it, but you want to do your best. And that's really what leaving a legacy is about. Big thanks to Tom Ziglar for sharing his ideas. One of the things I just appreciate so much about Tom, you know, being Zig Ziglar's son, those are big shoes to fill. And Tom does it masterfully because he doesn't try to be his dad. He tries to be himself and the best version of himself. You can learn all about what they do at Ziglar.com. Next week on the show, it's going to be awesome. Until then, go out and make some equity happen.
This episode of the Real Estate Guys radio show is brought to you by Paradigm Life. Powerful cash management strategies using life insurance. Learn more at beyourbank.com. Mid-South Home Buyers. Low-cost, turnkey cash flow properties in Memphis, Tennessee. Corporate Direct. Asset protection strategies for real estate investors from attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Find these and other great companies under the Resources tab at realestateguysradio.com. To learn how you can expose your product or service to the Real Estate Guys audience, call 888-489-7723 extension 4. That's 888-489-7723 extension 4. Or use the feedback page at realestateguysradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Real Estate Guys Radio Show.